welcome to the Creative Community. I'm your host, David Starkey, and my guest this time is filmmaker Jenny Reines. Jenny, welcome.
Thank you.
Been wanting to have you on the show for a while. I'm really happy to have you.
It took a while.
Yeah, I did. We have 3 or possibly 4 clips that we're going to see from your work as a filmmaker. So viewers will have that. Definitely look forward to it. And also getting to know you a little bit. You are someone who makes documentary films. You also have your own production company. We got Tide Pool Pictures and Riviera Productions, which we'll flash the websites for as we go along. But I'm always curious how people get involved in their craft. So how did you become a filmmaker?
I wanted to make documentaries probably since Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom when I was like 5 years old, something like that.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of video internships and stuff like that, but actually ended up in theater.
Oh, okay.
And I've got a degree in theater, and I was a theater teacher.
Oh.
Then I moved out here about 11 years ago, and I decided to help out on a film that was being done locally, and that was it. I was like, this is what I need to be doing.
Well, in theater, were you a director? Or?
I was actually a stage manager. Okay. I worked for Second City for their national touring company for quite a while in Chicago. But working in regional theater doesn't quite pay the bills, and I thought, oh, well, I'll be a teacher. There's a way to pay the bills. I don't know what I was thinking. But I did that for a number of years, and I loved it, but ultimately, you know, you're kind of constrained by the rules of the school, and there's only so much that you can do, and so I got back into it.
So you came back out here. What was the film that you were involved with?
The first one was First, Last, and Deposit. It was directed by Peter Hiyaguchi, and it was one of the first digital films that really got some attention. It was featured on, what is it called, HD Theater on, I think it was the Independent Film Channel. And so it was just such a great experience, and that was it. Yeah, I was hooked back in.
Well, I wanted to get viewers a chance to see the Aphrodite Project, which is a piece that you co-produced and co-directed with Justin Rowe.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the film overall, and then the clip that we're going to take a look at.
The film, it was just one of the most life-changing experiences. The Aphrodite Project was an idea that came from Joanne Blatter, who's a LCSW licensed clinical social worker in Santa Barbara. She works with a lot of cancer patients, and her idea was to pair professional working artists with patients who are in recovery or in remission, and sort of get them past dealing with all the medical stuff and get their hands dirty and get creative. I was actually asked to be an artist on the project because I also am a jewelry designer. And at the time I was just starting a new production job, and I was really busy, and I thought, you know,
can't really do it.
Yeah, I don't think I have time to devote to somebody as much as what she was looking for. And it also was a little bit scary to think about working with somebody who could potentially be terminally ill. So I said, you know, if you need anything like video done, any meetings, or they were talking about doing an unveiling of the artwork, I'd be happy to do that. Well, she called me a few months later and said, you know, we're having this meeting of all of the patients for the first time, and I just want a video so I can review the notes. So I brought Justin with me because it was a round table and a lot of people, and we needed 2 cameras. And at the end of this 2-hour meeting, Justin and I looked at each other and realized that we had something really special.
Powerful,
So, you know, going from I don't think I have enough time to following every single one of them through the entire process, we worked together in our day jobs, so we kind of traded off who went to shoot, and it was intense for a while, but it was really an amazing experience. We learned a lot.
Let's take a look at this, and we can talk a little bit about when we come back from that.
One of the things that I've come across is that people feel that talking about your illness is not polite. And I have a feeling that a lot of people who hear about cancer, or hear about the fact that I have cancer, feel very awkward around me, feel awkward about that diagnosis, don't really know what to say or do. And my advice is that act normal, because I'm still a normal person. I have all my faculties, and am willing and anxious and eager to enjoy life just as much as anyone else, maybe more.
The Aphrodite Project is a collaboration between individuals with cancer, whom Joanne refers to as creators, and local professional artists to jointly create a piece of artwork. The creation, which could incorporate any of the visual or performing arts, would be a symbol of the creators' journeys, their courage, and the resiliency. Their art would speak to themselves, to their families, and to the community at large.
I hadn't been involved in groups before, and I sort of shied away from the thought of sort of the woe is me kind of groups. So I was hesitant, but at that point decided, you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
I don't have any artistic talents at all, so when I saw the crayons, I kind of got excited. We're going to start with crayons and then work our way up.
But I knew I had to think about it because I had never done something like that before, and so I thought about it for a little while, and then I decided I'd be adventurous and try it.
I was very interested in it. I thought, what a great idea, what a great way for me to release and just explore something inside me that I've never been able to explore before. I've never tapped into my artistic side, so I was really thrilled to give it a shot and see what it was all about.
I could see using art as an instrument with cancer to express yourself. And this was certainly the most important journey any of us would ever take. And if we could in some way express ourselves using art and in some way do it together, it could be an incredible experience.
Welcome. It's awesome having all of you in one place. So mind you, as nervous as you are, I'm probably worse.
The first meeting of the Aphrodite Project took place on January 30th, 2003.
The very first night, I had a whole list of ideas, things that I would do, and things were just popping up in my head. One idea is that I realized that the first time around that I had been given a wound, a great scar. I mean, it would be great if I hung out in bars and took bets and things like that. It would be great for stories. And I read a bunch of that kind of stuff, the mythopoetic stuff, in the maybe 10 years or so ago, and I think, well, maybe this is my mythic wound, and that whatever I execute would have that wound in it. And I was having a great time with this small group of other cancer survivors, thinking about, well, what I could do, what can I do now? What fun I could have creating some of these things.
Well, I think that the creators couldn't keep their hands off once they got involved in the creative process. And I think the reason for that is that all of us really have a desire to play. And so I think it's very hard to be in the face of the opportunity to play and not participate.
So really moving stuff. You said that all the survivors are still with us except for Aaron.
Yeah, and he defied the odds. I think they had given him 10 months and he stole 4 years out of it, so it was pretty amazing. Yeah.
As you look back at what are you thinking when you're seeing it again?
It's a reminder that you just have to appreciate your life. And every time I watch it, and I've talked in documentary film classes and shown it, and every time I see it, it gets me again. That you just can't worry about the little things. They don't matter. You just have to enjoy your life and, try and appreciate what you have and be happy.
All right. Now, why the Aphrodite Project?
Aphrodite was, I guess, one of her roles as a deity was creativity. She was the goddess of creativity. And the group came up with that while they were coming up with a name for the project. And there were some others thrown out, which I can't remember, but passion, creativity, and just, embracing life. And so that's what they chose.
Well, now, one thing that any filmmaker faces is the challenge of how do I get my work out once it's completed to the world.
Oh, yeah. I'm doing
Tell
that
me
now.
a little bit about how you did that with this film.
We got incredibly lucky. As soon as a film has its first public showing, it can go on IMDb, which is the Internet Movie Database. And Pfizer Pharmaceuticals found it. They were looking for something to distribute to oncology professionals at a international conference.
Right.
And they bought like 10,000 copies of it.
Wow.
So that was something that we had never had to deal with before and had to learn how to, do that really quickly because we had about 6 weeks to make it happen.
Wow.
But that was fantastic. And then we were contacted by a small distributor who we still get royalty checks every now and then. They distribute to colleges and medical schools, things like that.
People can buy this on Amazon.com?
They can, and we're now on Amazon.com
Right,
too, so
yeah.
you just type in the Aphrodite Project, and if you buy it, write a review. It helps us get found.
That's good. Well, this is 2004, and we're going to move now to 2008 to your next big project. Tell me about this.
We Played Marbles.
Yeah.
This was actually a production of the Jewish Federation of Greater Santa Barbara. This is something that I was brought in to co-direct and produce with Louise Palanker, who is another film director. And it was again one of those amazing. I've been so lucky with the projects that I've gotten and the people that I've gotten to work with. We interviewed, I'd say, about 30 Holocaust survivors. And this was a group who weren't in the concentration camps. They either were hidden or they escaped. They all had really interesting stories. And ultimately, we picked about a dozen of them who, they didn't share the same stories, but the themes in their stories of talking about their childhood before the war and what the culture was like in Europe before Hitler came to power, and then how things changed, and then they talked about how they managed to get to safety. And that's really where we stopped telling their stories. And their stories went on, and a lot of them actually speak now at the Jewish Federation and their docents in their Holocaust program that they have there. But I mean, just being able to preserve this history, I felt really, really privileged to be able to sit and conduct these interviews. And I'll tell you, these aren't necessarily stories that get told very often because it takes its toll on the people involved.
Who were telling it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's look at a clip from We Played Marbles.
And I got to the train, and I see my grandfather still running next to the train with his handkerchief waving. And of course the steam, at that time you had steam engine, and that steam was evolving around that engine and the train. And when I didn't see him anymore, I knew that I would never see them again. I had that feeling, and I didn't. They were killed in Auschwitz.
My mother was a source of strength. She gave them hope, and it was just good to be around her.
My mother had arranged for us to get smuggled across the French border.
Food was scarce, needless to tell you. And we were just totally out of food.
My sister went to Holland.
My younger sister and I went. We started at dusk time.
And my parents paid for her to be taken across the border from Germany to Holland.
And we made it to the farmer's house. Anyway, he said, you know, you've walked such a long way, and it was a long way from where we were hiding. It was a different village. He says, why don't you stay the night and you get up early and then you can go.
But unfortunately, the man that did this and took all that money from people, sold them all out.
There were, I think, 6 children in his family. One was married and out of the house, so there were 5. They were all trying to help. But there was one son amongst them that was evil.
My mother went with my uncles and aunts and cousins to Paris.
That morning, he showed up out of nowhere.
But my sister is probably one of the only ones of the group, if not the only one, who stayed alive because she was just lucky enough that winter to have a green winter coat.
There was a little cellar in the house just to keep some potatoes.
And when she threw herself in the grass when they were shooting, they didn't see her.
She started selling coffee on the black market, and she made some money. She was even selling it to the Nazis.
And so they lifted that, there were boards, and we got under there.
And so when all the shooting was over and all of them left, she got on her feet and walked her own way into Holland.
So this premiered at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival
Yes.
and was well received.
Very. We had amazing audience. We had, I think, the entire group that appeared in the film were on stage for a Q&A afterwards, and it was pretty spectacular.
Wow. And so people who want to see this can contact the Jewish Federation.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're running short of time and getting a chance to see a lot of your great work, so I want to kind of move us on to the next project, which is Behind the Lines. This is about firefighters and wildland fires.
Yeah, and it's been a crazy few weeks. It's getting all sorts of attention, and I'm not quite sure where it's coming from because it has yet to have a premiere. We're planning one, but at this point I've been submitting it to film festivals. It's a great story. Justin, who I did the Aphrodite project with, had called me while the Zaka fire was burning, and he was stuck in an office for the day, and there was that big mushroom cloud of smoke over Santa Barbara. And he called me and he said, "Get your camera and go film. You never know when you need like stock photography of, you know, a mushroom cloud." So I went out, and it was really hot, and I'm on top of my car in all sorts of weird positions filming, and afterwards stopped by one of the stores to get a drink where there happened to be an information kiosk outside, and I started talking to one of the firefighters, and he thought I was a film student and, you know, explained what was going on, and I corrected him and told him I'd had my production company for years, and he invited me to bring a crew in to film at the base camp of the Zaka fire. So 3 a.m. we got our stuff packed up and went, and we were there for the morning briefing, and what was really cool was that since I wasn't really mainstream media, I got access to people that wouldn't have normally talked to me, including the incident commander who did not give interviews. So I got to talk to everyone, and I had a variety of different firefighters who escorted me. I went out a few times, ended up continuing when the Gap fire broke out and doing more filming. So, and I was actually about to finish the film when the Tea fire broke out. And I only have a tiny, tiny bit of it in there, but I felt like I needed to add it in, and it actually worked pretty well.
So I mean, we're going to take a look at it here in just a moment, but what kind of continuity do you see between these firefighters? I mean, what do they all have in common?
You know, everybody has a role to play in supporting the whole effort, and I didn't know what I was going to do when I went in there. I just thought, cool, I get to go film at the base camp of the fire. And I got there, and I was amazed. There's things that you and I would never in a million years imagine, the roles that are played and the amount of people, and it's like a city. And so as I started filming, I realized that just being able to show that to people was really important, and, you know, just how many people it took, and they weren't just sitting back there, you know, playing cards waiting for, you know, their overtime checks. They were really, really working all the time. And it's actually, the film's gotten the interest of Senator Barbara Boxer, who's fighting to keep funding from being cut for firefighting and emergency services. So right now she's got a copy of it, and we're waiting to see if she's going to do something with it.
Well, let's get a little bit of a premiere here on the creative community and take a look at Behind the Lines.
This fire's been really tough. It's been highly politically charged. You know, the people over the hill really worried, and you guys are doing a really good job, and thanks.
That was a hot fire.
People's view of the fires are these little grass fires that flames 3 and 4 feet in the air, and they don't really understand that this fire out here in its more active days was an absolute monster. We're talking flame lengths 400 to 500 feet tall, and it was spotting a mile ahead, which means the fire was actually taking embers into the smoke, taking them a mile ahead and starting fires a mile down. So even if you had a huge line in there, it was taking it and throwing it on the other side of the line. And, you know, my wife was absolutely appalled when one of her acquaintances told her, yeah, you guys must be loving this because they're just letting that fire burn to get overtime. And you know, and she was very angry. She was very upset because Daddy hasn't been home for the entire summer of my 2 kids. And when they got out of school, I have not spent more than an 8-hour day, I think 3 times this summer, where I got to spend with them their entire summer off school. And I'm still going to be here when they go back to school. And so that's one of the big things. we're not letting this thing burn. I mean, the guys are trying to put this thing out, and you know, sometimes you bite the bear, sometimes the bear bites you, and the bear's biting us the whole way on this one.
My name is Darius. What we're doing at the 5 is pass out lunches and water for the firefighters, like Gatorades, lunches, veggie, regulars, all that, and we just help them out. It's very, very inspiring, you know what I'm saying? Because I look into a firefighter, because I want to be one of these days. I like it very a lot. I like it.
Well, this is the R&D receiving and distribution portion of the supply unit. So we take orders from everybody and get stuff out to the line to support the firefighters that are out in the engines and the hand crews and the hotshot crews. We're supporting all those guys on the line. This is just mostly equipment. I take some orders for food. We've got, these are Coyote packages. The crews that are out on the line, they'll stay out there 3 or 4 days, sometimes more, on the fire line, so they can't come in for food. And we send out the food to them. They fly it out by helicopter. They tell us what they need as far as hose and tools to get their job done, and we try to get it all together for them and get them what they need. I've been fighting fire for 27 years, but I've been doing this for about 10, 12 years. I'm an engine captain normally, and when we're out on the line, and I've seen it not run well. So it's important to me that we run a tight shop and get everything out that we're supposed to get to them, and that we know where everything's at, and it just runs smoother that way. If they don't get what they need to get the job done, then it doesn't get done. The main thing I want people to know is there's men and women out there on the line that are away from their wives and their kids and their families, and they're working their butts off out there to try to stop this thing. And everybody at camp here, there's a lot of people, it takes a lot of people in camp to support what they're doing out there. It's pretty much like a military operation. And without the logistics people and the planning and the finance people to pull it all together, they can't get it done out there. And unfortunately, it's a world of bureaucracies and stuff, so there's a lot of paperwork that the planning people and the finance people got to take care of. But it takes a lot of people in camp here to support the guys that are out. And there's a few thousand people out there fighting this fire, and every fire all over the state. And we're all away from our families, and it's not easy for us. And we want to get this thing wrapped up and get home just as much as they want to see the smoke stop and the fire stop.
So Jeannie Reich, we're looking at your film Behind the Lines, and getting a lot of buzz.
Yeah, all these wildfire sites and firefighting sites all over the country. I was contacted by someone in Boise, Idaho yesterday, where they do most of their dispatch from. It's been on wildfiretoday.com website and a few other places, and so it's pretty exciting. I think this film has a life in that industry at least.
Yeah, and relevant to us here in Santa Barbara, I was evacuated for 4 or 5 days during the Gap Fire. You said you were packed up and ready to go, so this is a subject that we can stay attuned to.
And it's really good for people to know what's actually going on. I mean, it gave me a real sense of relief to know just what's going on back there, and that this thing isn't just out of control. So.
So it's comforting.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Well, we have just a few minutes, but we want to take a quick look at a video that you're working on for Habitat for Humanity.
Yes.
Give me the 30-second intro, and we'll look at it, and then we'll talk about it.
Following a group of families that have been chosen to have homes built for them in Santa Barbara. So this will probably be about 2 years in production as the homes get built and the families move in. We've just started. I think the clip that we're going to see is one of the women who's going to have a home built for her was just being told that she had been selected.
Okay, let's take a look at that.
Okay.
And you are one of the families.
You selected your family?
Wow! And you are one of them.
Wow! Wow. That is such a thing.
It is a thing, isn't it? Yeah. Very happy. You okay?
It is just such a thing of grace.
Laura has spent the bulk of her life taking care of other people, her own siblings, her mom, her dad, and someone else's kids for 17 years. She's just been devoted to taking care of other people. So
great.
Then you'll be a Habitat homeowner. So,
What if I'll sleep tonight?
don't even try.
Is there, just to ask the question, is there anybody who, if they were given a little bit more time, that maybe had a child or anything, that would need this more than myself?
That's an amazing question. That's a really wonderful thing for you to say.
That was a hard thing to ask. But
Yeah, yeah. I think that the families that the committee selected are the right ones for this project.
Okay.
We believe in divine help too.
Yeah.
Amen.
You know, as I look at all your work, it seems to me it often shows people in times of great stress or great trauma, but behaving well. It's the better side of humanity, would you say?
Yeah, and I think in all of the cases, there's a lot of hope. And, you know, starting to look, and especially doing this, looking at my work, I love the human stories. And I don't necessarily realize that when I start a project, but then I look at what I've come up with, and it's these human stories that, you know, people go through a lot, but there seems to be that spirit in everyone that doesn't give up and that, you know, tries their best and is hopeful.
So you got, you know, two years of work ahead on this, or that's a
at
lot.
least. That's just the shooting, and then you know I'm trying to edit as I go because there's already a lot, and this was just a very rough piece. I haven't even started
Just
editing
that
this
one
yet.
moment was so powerful.
Yeah. So if we have more moments like that, I think we'll be in good shape with this film.
How long do you think this would be? I mean, the length of the film?
I'm guessing hour and a half, depending on what we get. So it'll be a feature.
Yeah, great. Well, Jenny, it's been a great pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Creative Community is produced by Santa Barbara City College in association with the Santa Barbara Channels. I'm David Starkey, and we'll see you next time.